Good afternoon. Welcome to OVERMUGGED webinar on preparing your child for secondary school. So everyone here is probably a P6 parent. Your child will be going Sec 1 next year. So we would like to share with you our experience and expertise in the transition to secondary school. All right. So over here, we have a list of content as to the topics that we are covering today. And we hope to finish this by 3 p.m. so that we can have some time for Q&A. And if you have any things that you would like to ask during the webinar itself, you can just put it in the chat and we will address it at the end of our seminar. Okay. So a little bit about OVERMUGGED. We are Singapore's fastest growing tuition brand. Right now we have 5 branches across Singapore. And then for our tutors, we are either ex-MOE teachers or ex-Learning Lab tutors. All right. And OVERMUGGED hosts webinars and revision events now and then to help secondary school students transit in their next chapter. So our Instagram page has some information of our past events. We also update the page regularly of the upcoming events. So you might want to join our Instagram page later when we share with you the handle so that you can just keep yourself updated on these events that we may have. Okay. Next one. So a little bit about ourselves. I'm teacher Charlene, and together with me, I have teacher Li Ying. So for me, myself, I was an ex-MOE educator for the last 10 years plus, all right? I specialize in teaching PSLE science, and for me, myself, I'm also a P6 parent this year. So I understand the roller coaster of emotions that you all went through on Wednesday when we collected the results with our child. Yeah. So over the years, I've helped different batches of students transit in preparing for their PSLE and also transiting from PSLE to secondary 1. So hopefully today, some of the things that we bring up will be helpful to you and you can use it to make your decision in your choices for your secondary school and also know what's upcoming in the next few years in your secondary school life.
Yeah, okay. And to introduce myself, I'm Li Ying, and I actually moved over from another large tuition center, and I was a subject head over there and mainly teaching primary and secondary math and science. And I've helped advise many parents during their transition from P6 to Sec 1. And I think everyone would have received your PSLE results on Wednesday and deciding how to choose the secondary school and how to rank your choices. So hopefully this session will be useful. We're here really to help you with that. We also have a secondary 1 tuition program to help your child to transit smoothly into the new phase of secondary 1 life. So if you're interested, we'll be sharing more resources and information towards the end.
Okay, so let's move on to our first topic as to how to select your child's secondary school. So right now, you would have known your child's PSLE score, and from there, narrowed down some schools that they have met the cutoff points. So we have a few criteria I think it's worth considering when you are ranking the schools, okay? As what we have listed down here. So first one is the academic pace and pathways. So right now, we have different pathways like taking the O-levels, or being in an IP program where you do a 6-year program and take A-levels, or there's also the international baccalaureate pathway. So later on, teacher Li Ying will share a bit more differences among these pathways. So, but it's something to consider when you're discussing with your child as to which secondary school they would like to join, okay, based on the pathways. The next thing is the school's affiliation. So school's affiliation meaning, does this secondary school have an affiliation to a primary school? Because if that's the case, the number of spaces for affiliated primary school students, they keep it up to 80%, which means for the remaining 20%, it will be students coming in not via affiliation, but via their score. Then the next thing about school's affiliation is if you are looking at your child entering a JC, which secondary or which JC is affiliated to this secondary school can also affect your choice. Okay. The third point is the teachers and schools environment. So for this, I hope parents, you have already gone for an open house. I think many secondary schools held their open house last week and this week. So from the interaction with the students and the teachers, I think it would have given you a very good idea of what the school environment is like. And I think personally for myself, I've also brought my child to the open house and give her a chance to speak to the seniors there to get a sensing of what the curriculum or how fast-paced the curriculum is like, what are some of the facilities in the schools, so on and so forth. So I think it gives you a better idea of the school. And I think it's important because it is where your child will be spending their 4 to 6 years in the next few years' time. So it's important to consider this in your ranking. All right. Then the next one would be CCA choices. So there are some students who feel very strongly about certain CCA that they want to join. And not all secondary schools may be able to provide that. So in your discussion with your child, you might want to bring this up and see whether there are any particular CCA that they really want to join, and if the school has this available for them. All right. Now, the second last point I have is location and accessibility. So in secondary school, your child will be going through longer curriculum hours. So if you're looking at a school that they need to spend 1.5 hours commuting, it might be something worth discussing first because it's going to be a daily thing. So I wouldn't recommend if your child is spending such a long period of time, traveling up and down to the school. So it might be something that you want to consider when you are ranking your choices. Okay. Last but not least is, of course, your child's preferences and choices. They're going to their teenage years. So even for myself, my own daughter has her own mindset of thinking as to which school she prefers, what are some pros and cons of the various schools. So I think it's important to consider your child's preferences and choices when you're sitting down to discuss this. I think it's important to involve them in this because they would like, I think, they feel appreciated and they feel that they're listened to when they're able to make their choices. Not forgetting this is a 4 to 6 year commitment. So I think it is necessary that we hear from them to see if there's any other things that they like to put into consideration. Okay, so for the second big point is about visiting open houses for shortlisted schools. So like I mentioned, most schools have held their open house last week and today. So if you have not had the chance to go for the open house, I think the next best thing is to probably call the school to just quickly speak to them and see whether they are able to answer a few of your questions. The S1 posting will close on Tuesday, 3 p.m. So you still have Monday and probably Tuesday morning to, make that last minute adjustment or find out some information during this period of time. Okay. And I think in the process, if you can speak to teachers about specific academic schools opportunities, that'd be great as well, in case you want to put this into consideration. Okay. Okay. So on to the next topic, which is okay. So about your shortlisted choices, like I mentioned just now, your child should have a say in it because I think how they view the school is very important as to how they are going to be able to commit themselves for the next 4 to 6 years. Yeah. Okay, so on the topic 2 about ranking your choices, I thought I'll just bring up some statistics first before I go into the ranking. First thing is, if you compare last year's cohort to this year's cohort, there was an increase in 0.1% of students who are able to qualify for secondary school. So this actually translates to 2,800 more students this year who will be applying to a secondary school of their choice. So I think this is something to keep in mind. Not only that, it's a dragon year, so definitely the cohort is also bigger. From my own interaction with the several schools I visited during open house, they did tell me that the school is not able to increase the intake because of the limited facilities that they have. So I think if you're concerned about this, it might be good to speak to the school of your choice to see whether they are able to give you a hard answer as to whether they are increasing the cohort size this year. But based on my own experience, it doesn't seem like they are. So with that in mind, it could mean that there's a bit more competition this year for certain schools because of the limited spaces. So I think it's important to keep that in mind when you're ranking your choices. Okay. Next thing is when you are ranking your schools, I think the first and foremost is to look at the PSLE results and the school's cutoff point. You can find this information on MOE School Finder. So from there, you can narrow down the PSLE score range to see where does your child need to cut. Okay. But I think it's good to know that when your child is well within the cutoff point range, it usually means that your child has a very good chance of entering the school, right? Whereas while your child, let's say your child is just at the cutoff point, so example, your child scores 8 points and they're going for a school that cutoff point is at 8. Do note that you're taking a bit of risk because there could be an event of a tiebreaker. Yeah. Okay, so do take note of that. I think so. For the first choice that you have, it's good to either put a school that your child is either within the cutoff point or at the cutoff point. And then the second choice would be good to have a school where your child is well within the cutoff point. So let's say your child scores 8. It might be good to put a school where the cutoff point is at 9 so that you can pretty much guarantee a space inside there. Okay, so do note that the secondary school posting is based on PSLE results, followed by choice of order of schools, and then the vacancy available at the chosen schools. Okay. Yeah. So if anything else, I think for more information about the schools, CCA availabilities, location, so on and so forth, All this can be found in MOE School Finder, which I think is very useful for you in making your choice. Okay. So with that, I will hand over to Teacher Li Ying, who will cover the next topic about the different kind of academic pathways that your child can choose from in the next chapter.
If there's any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat, and then we'll take a look at the questions and we'll also answer them as we move along. So I'm here to talk about what is the differences between the types of programs at secondary school, right? So, okay. Okay, so we'll take note of the questions and then we'll answer them during the Q&A, yeah? Okay, so for secondary school, right, there are three main programs in Singapore that we're looking at, which is the O-level program, where they are split into G3, G2, or G1. And then there's the IP program as well as the IB program. Okay, so for O-level program, it's the one that maybe we are more familiar with because it's something that maybe mummies and daddies also went through by ourselves, which is the 4-year program. And then they do the O-level exams, and then they go to a school via the joint admissions posting, all right, into a year 5 or year 6. Okay, whereas for IP as well as IB program, these are 6-year courses. All right, now, let me just go into what the differences are. Okay, so for those who have just joined us, not to worry. The link to this PDF will be sent to you guys at the end of this. So for O-levels, there is a 4-year prep time and then 2-year for A-levels if you're considering A-levels. Whereas for the integrated program, it will be full 6 years. So what we have seen actually when it comes to subjects, right, is that they may bring down year 3 topics, maybe at year 2. So the topics will be different according to the schools because the aim is to prepare them for A-levels, right? Versus in a school where you are going through the O-level program, they are preparing them for the O-levels. Okay. So after O-levels, you can still go actually to an A-level JC, right? And then you can, or you can choose the other options that are listed here. Okay, and then students can also, after A-levels, either enter university, take a gap year, go to the workforce, okay? So just to share, actually every journey is different. We have had stories where students do go to the IP program, but then they found that it's not suitable and then they have to drop out. Or we have encountered students where even after year 1 and year 2 of the O-level program in an IP school, they can switch to IP after that. All right. I mean, we would have heard of our own stories of social stories of people around us where, you know, they can go to a big brand name school, but in the end, they also don't do so well for the A-levels, and then they have to sit for the A-levels again as a private candidate, right? So there are options out there. It's just that whether it takes more time or some people take an accelerated route. Okay. So for O-levels, I would have to say not all children suit the IP, right? And versus O-levels, right? So I think there has been this mindset where IP is better or 6-year program is better. It really depends on the child. So for the O-level curriculum, because it is an older curriculum, right? So we are saying that we have had many, many years to work with this curriculum. So it's, yes, we are talking about foundational subjects and topics, but at the same time, it's a very structured route. So the textbooks, let's say the textbooks for O-levels, if we just talk about that, it's quite standard. Okay, and so the flow is really structured, right? So for the child who needs that kind of structure, this will be good for them, right? Versus for the IP curriculum, they go deeper into the subjects and they introduce higher level concepts earlier than the O-level track. Okay, what do I mean by this? So it used to be, you know, when they were trying out IP for the first time, then nuclear physics, right, was introduced earlier on. But I think it was more of the schools trying it out and realizing that, oh, it might not work, so we will we will change a little bit here and there. Notice how I'm making it very general. I do not want to, say which school, but I think what we need to look at an IP program is also how long has the school been doing this 6-year IP program. Okay. So like we wrote here, curriculum for IP programs are school dependent. My advice, we take a look at how long the school has been doing this particular program. Yeah. Okay, so teaching style, we write here is structured and syllabus focused, prioritizing mastery of content for the O-level exams. It's also for A-levels, it's inquiry based. So what you see a lot more is class discussions. You see a lot more group work. So students generally do enjoy that, right? So they do a lot of experiments. They come up with their own. So for example, for science, right? They could come up with their own experiment by identifying what the different variables. So it is really, but I would have to say, right, it doesn't suit everyone. And sometimes I have students complaining to me about their group projects also. Okay. So for O-level, the teacher is usually, because it's so structured and they are probably it's an experience program. They are more of a directive role, okay, as opposed to versus a teacher being more of a facilitator and facilitating the child to do their inquiry projects. Okay, so I hope this helps because I think it's important to speak with the student to find out, and I think we all know our children best, like which might or may not suit them. Okay. So I'm sure we are now also considering IP and IB. So I'm actually the go-to person in my family on advice because I know, let's say my nieces or nephews, I know them and I'll be like, okay, I think I will advise this rather than this, even though you might have this conception, this idea about this particular program. Okay, so for the A-levels, it's 3 to 4 subjects with a deep focus on whatever the field is. Whereas for IB, it's 6 subjects. Okay. So for subject focus, right, there is a, let's see, oh, sorry, yeah, for the screen. Okay. There's a narrow focus with specialization, which will allow students to excel in their strongest subjects. Right. So if they have 6 years to prepare and the IP program is well established, it's usually everyone is really there to help the students. Okay, whereas for IB, it's more broad-based. They study, so it's not like you can do all sciences or, you have to do your theory of knowledge, right? So it's across languages, sciences, mathematics, humanities, and the arts. Okay. Whereas for assessment, you have your final exam for your A-levels. And then for IB, it's also their assessments, coursework, and then a standardized final exam. Okay, and it's upon 45 versus the grading system for A-levels, which is scoring from scoring like 4 A's, you might hear them, and then they might take other papers also. Okay. So let's go into this. So for the student population, mostly for A-levels, a lot of Singaporeans will go that route. However, even though we wrote here more international students, it is actually a good program and it's renowned across a lot of universities also. I would also like to say that for those who do O-levels, right, you still have that opportunity to choose an IB program. Okay, at the end of year 4 with your O-level results, if the student so chooses to do that, because we know it's either you want to do your A-levels or do your IB, and then you choose a university after that or go into the workforce. Okay. All right, let's moving on. So these are just some of the schools, the IP school versus their affiliated junior college. I think we know this and we'll be sending this to you as well. Okay. And these are some of the IB schools over here. So this may be some of your considerations after receiving the results. Okay, so I just wanted to also talk about how to prepare for secondary school. So I think now we are at the stage where let me just not press the annotation. Let me just remove the annotation. Yeah. Okay. Yep. So I would just like to yeah. Let me remove it. Where's my annotation thing? I don't know where it went. Okay, sorry. Okay, so how to prepare our child for Sec 1. I think now at this stage, I have some parents who are also saying that, oh, they are so free at home and then they're just playing all day and whatever, right? You can start to, I feel you can start to look at books, right? What are the books that they need to purchase for school? But of course, I know that is also dependent on, the book list that comes with the school that they get into lah. Yeah, but so let me just highlight some of the secondary one. So I'm just talking about secondary one rather than the whole 4 years. So P6 students would have known letter writing already, which was introduced in primary 5, as well as comprehension. But when we move on to secondary school, what happens is that the comprehension aspect of it, okay, let me just move this. The comprehension aspect of it would be, there'll be 2 comprehensions rather than 1. Okay, so then we move back here. So new components that they will have to learn is now essay writing. Okay, so what do I mean by essay writing? So for narrative writing, it will be more open and free form. So students are asked to share about the time, for instance, right? It's more personal. That means they need to have some form of personal reflection. So we see more of these kinds of writing. And then summary writing is also a new skill where they have to refer to the comprehension passage. They need to have skills such as paraphrasing, reorganizing, and linking the key points to form their own fluent summary. Okay, so these are 2 of the new components. And then visual text, where students will need to cross-analyze 2 forms of stimulus. So it used to be 1 visual text, so now they have to cross-analyze, and then they explain the purpose, audience, as well as the context. Okay, so for secondary math, right, I'm not like just putting down all the topics, right? So math is very topic-based, but I found that when students from P6, they go to Sec 1 math, they suddenly go, hey, it's very easy, but it gets hard really quickly. So why is it easy? Because when they first start, they start learning about numbers. What are numbers? What are integers, right? And the hard part is learning about what a negative number is. So my advice is to not use the calculator as much as we can, because I have found that when students use calculators for fractions, right? So fractions is it's important to know how to do your order of operations for fractions. But I found that even my students at Sec 3 and Sec 4, if we haven't been training them to not use that calculator, the calculator they will do, they're doing algebra and then suddenly you take out the calculator and then they calculate the easiest of sums and then they lose their train of thought and they forgot what they're doing. The careless mistakes can really take out a lot of marks. Okay, so the key thing about secondary 1 and 2 is actually algebra mastery. So they'll learn a lot of different algebraic concepts, right? And as well as algebra in negative numbers, okay? So what's important is actually practice. It's really just about practice. So the skills needed also, so they start to have logic and reasoning. So it used to be that for geometry, they can just say 180 degrees minus something is equal to something else, right? But now they have to write their reasoning behind it. So that may be quite an adjustment, but I would advise just follow the school's pace and then also review their concepts at home. Because chances are, we all know, even us, when we're introduced to a new concept, we forget it in the next 24 hours. That's what homework is for. It's really to do the revision. Okay. Presentation is also could be quite an adjustment for students. Because right, primary school, they just write their number sentences and they'll get the mark if they get the answer, right? Whereas for this, the presentation, you will be marked for your presentation. That's one. Number 2, with accurate presentation, it actually helps saves time and prevents careless errors such as transfer error because you have neatly labeled every step. So I have found that it's not so much about the concept. It's why do we lose marks? Because we are overly reliant on our calculator. So we end up not calculating correctly and losing our train of thought. And we are not presenting properly. So if we are not labeling every step, then we will also lose our train of thought and what comes up next. Okay. Yes, so these academic adjustments are also applicable for IP and IB. So at least for year one, year two, it's pretty similar. Okay. Now for secondaries, for secondary one science, notice how this is very broad because schools have different topic lists that they work with. So usually I see that, okay, they will use this science matters books mostly lah. So if we can follow the textbook, that's fine. But if you're going to IP or IB schools, there might be a little bit of a change in the order of topics. Okay, so my tip is find out early, right? So we find out early, we prepare our child for success. We tell their, if you are signing up with tuition or what, it's good to tell the tutor early so that they can plan also. So science is usually they need very deep understanding of the topics. Set one, when they start, it will still seem fine, right? Because wow, they get exposed to the lab, so they'll find science very fun. They will mess with the Bunsen burner, right? And then they'll know all the different parts of the lab. So usually it's about safety. But after that, when we start going into the different chemistry, physics, and bio components, that's when they really need to have very deep understanding of topics. I have to say though, that I know in primary school, we are always very particular about the phrasing and there are some and keywords. In secondary school, it's not so much of that, but if they have to understand in order to apply and answer the questions on application. Okay. So yeah, I put here also revision within the week of learning because there's a lot of content to memorize. So these are some of our tips. All right. So to prepare them for secondary school. In fact, actually, yesterday, my niece, we were going around Singapore because as a family, right? So we did not get the dream schools that we want. So now we were, trying to go around, we drive, and then we say, okay, from here, what kind of bus you take? Do you like this school? So we were actually doing that. Yeah. So even me as an aunt, okay. So we help them to familiarize with the new environment. We visit the school campus during open house, so you should have already done that. If, like me, the school campus open house turns out to be something that they couldn't target for, we show them support by now traveling with them. Okay, which are the cut-off point schools? We can go there and then we take a look at the travel time. Is it near, right? Is it near like a mall that you like? So I think the main thing is the child feeling supported by the family. Okay. Provide them frameworks to take ownership of their learning. So what I found is that at set one, I think parents are very tired tuition and then they're just like, okay, never mind, we let go, we let the child decide, right? But I would advise don't let go too much. I think they're still children, they need to know how to organize their schedule. Okay, be it a desk calendar, if they have phones, right? Have a calendar, teach them how to use a calendar, how to set internal deadlines. These are all very important skills. Okay. Encourage open communication about their experiences, especially in school. So it's important because sometimes children, they are in a new environment, they are making new friends. They may have a hard time making new friends. I think we just have to hear them out, and if need be, then we get the school involved. So we have heard stories like that before as well, where the child cannot find a friend group. Okay, build independence. So like what I said, like all the life skills, organizing school materials, right? Having the schedule up. So we set them up for success by having systems. Okay, so a lot of changes are happening, and also they are entering a new school, new environment. Their bodies are also changing. So I think as a support system, the main thing is just knowing that they know that they can go to you if anything happens, right? So one measure of success, I put it in quotation marks, is if your child runs to you if they have a problem, rather than away from you, I think you have succeeded, okay, in this. Yeah. So for secondary one resources, we put here, right? I wanted to highlight this to you. So Overmugged, can I just say, before I joined Overmugged, I was doing my own thing for like 1.5 years. I was using Overmugged's resources as well. So you can actually go ahead and download their free notes. So they do have free notes available on the website. And then they also have curated notes, but this one you have to pay for them. Okay. This is also a great resource. So if let's say now your child is very free, right, and then they are playing too much, Khan and Academy is a very, very good free resource. And they're great for math and science mainly, okay, and history. So it's more for now, right? There's no pressure of studying. It's really quite fun, and they have like this point system for them to work with. Okay, MOE School Bag is also a good primary school digital resource for articles for both students as well as parents. Then Overmugged's YouTube channel also has lesson snippets that they can learn from. Okay, and Overmugged also has, I think yearly, they have school revision events and courses, and a lot of them are free also. Yeah, I think this is if you like to, right, you can sign up for them, keep a lookout for them. Okay, yeah. All right, so just wanted to share. So you can scan the QR code if you'd like to find out more about our programs. Okay, but I think mainly now I would like to just answer some of the questions. If there are any other questions also, please put them into the chat. Okay, so we have a question here. May you repeat?
Yeah, we have a question here asking what is the meaning of choice order of school? So you know that when you are putting in your S1 posting, there are 6 choices. The order of the choices matter, which is why I mentioned just now, when it comes to your child's score, it's good to put your first choice, either the score is well within the cutoff point, or if it's at the cutoff point, know that you're taking a bit of risk with the first choice. Okay?
Let us know if this answers your question, or if you have further questions on what is the choice order of school. Okay, we have a question here about, do we have classes for IB schools? I've noticed classes mainly for NYGH. Yes. How about schools like RI? I think this one, you can write in or call into our inquiry hotline. So for cluster IB schools, I believe maybe at the higher levels, and I think also because Overmugged is, let's say, small compared to other centers. So if we can gather enough to make a class, usually centers like that are more flexible in that. Yeah, but to be honest, this part I'm not I'm not sure about that. This one we will have to ask our admin through our enrollment hotline. I hope this helps. Yeah. Okay, is academic done? Okay. Yeah.
You can just type in your questions and we'll try to answer them to the best of our ability.
Yes. Okay, if not, then I think we've come to the end. Feel free to also unmute yourself and have a chat with us.